say today's topic is the most controversial topic in all of craps, and it might be the most controversial in all of the casino, and that is this: dice control, aka dice influence, or whatever you want to call it. Does it really exist, and how do you prove it or disprove it? We're going to talk about dice control on this week's episode.
Welcome to the Color Up Podcast. Whether you're a seasoned player or a beginner eager to step up to the table, this is your lucky podcast that's all about the thrill and strategy of the casino world. I'm your host, Jeremy. With me is Jim the Professor. Let's get rolling.
Oh boy, Jim, you got me in a hot one this week.
You did it yourself, big guy. You put out that video.
Yeah, I know. I've been kind of avoiding this subject for 5 years, trying to play the fence a little bit, and so it's going to be pretty exciting. We will definitely get into a lot of conversation with the viewer. Some of that maybe during our topic, but a lot of that will go in the monster roll at the end. But yeah, we got a good one. But I do want to. Well, before we jump to the news, just anything new this week? I don't have anything new this week. I think I took my kid to college. She came back the very next day because of forest fires. Yeah. The school got closed the very next day, and they sent all the kids. Oh, they needed to practice, right, for volleyball, and they're not allowed activity in California with a nearby forest fire. There's too much smoke, so my kid came home the very next day. I'm like, I tried to kick you out. I couldn't get rid of her. So she's back.
What's the record? She's back at home or back at college?
Well, she's back at college now. Yeah. But she's had to stay here a few days because it's like, I don't know. Daggone. Anyway. So that's about.
Was it emotional for the family?
Well, for the family overall, I would say yes. Yeah. There was probably tears. I mean, I'm not that super emotional guy, but, yeah, I'm more happy to, see her do her thing than anything. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's good. So
that was the big thing for me this week.
I went back to work for one day last week, and now on the 1st, and now I go back to school again on Monday as we race toward the 26th. But I did get to play this weekend. I went Friday up to DC and saw my buddy Craps fan and Caps fan. And we and our wives, we all went out to see Cake. You familiar with this group, Cake?
Going the Distance.
Going the Distance is one. Yeah.
Okay.
That's their biggest one. So we went and saw them at Wolf Trap Amphitheater. And then we went to MGM National Harbor after that. And we did play on a crapsless table. Great time with those guys. Did not walk away a winner this time.
Can you stick with the Molly, right?
Yeah,
which is a little tough on a crapless table. I mean, because
my buddy, first time he rolls a 12, and then got me on another 12.
So now you're on the 12s with odds.
Give me odds on my 12. Which
nice if it hits, but yeah,
it's crazy. And one thing I didn't realize on the crapsless table, and I know this is a sidebar, but the odds are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on those. So 1 on the 2 and the 12. You can't load up and hope for lightning to strike. Because I'm going to give you 10 times odds on that 12. Just wait for lightning. But anyway, we had a good time. I did get up 500 at one point, and then let that chip away. Then when I left, I was down 90. Only made a couple stupid bets, but we had fun doing it. So it was a great time with our buddies and our wives. So always some good stories and good times with them.
Very nice. Yep. Jim, you gave me some news articles.
I did.
We're going to get to them. No one cares about the news. We just want to talk about dice control, but I think we should cover a couple good ones here. We got a couple good ones.
Yeah, so a new way to cheat in the casino was the French cops caught these guys. They were playing poker, right?
Okay.
They were playing poker, and they had a microchip earpiece in his ear, microphone ear, like a speaker thing. And he had a guy in a car that he was communicating to, if you listen to it, and if you read the number, and I'm sure you'll post it or do whatever. But their style was this. They had some kind of phone and laid the phone on the table or something, and then the phone was shooting camera sideways like this, I guess. And he would catch the cards as they were being dealt. And then the guy in the card would look at it and say, okay, that guy's got a good hand. That guy has 2 face cards or whatever. And that's how they get it. But 63-year-old guy and a 37-year-old guy. So Ukraine and Latvian getting along and having a good time all over.
So they were spotting the dealer that was dealing bad?
No, the dealer wasn't dealing bad. The dealer wasn't in on it. He was dealing, and as the cards went to the player, when they toss them across to you.
That's what I'm saying. He wasn't doing a good job of keeping, because I've actually encountered that in my short poker career. Was one particular dealer, he would have his deck faced up too much, and I'd go, well, face card, and you can kind of see, because they're supposed to have like the card on the bottom.
Right.
So you can't see, and that you deal them like down. I don't know. It's a physical act. You got to deal them down, but you can't show the card, right? And I know people do this. They try to gain advantage in blackjack the same way, or any card game really. You take advantage players, right? So they're looking for new dealers or whatever, and that's what they're looking for is, just their what do you call it? The technique of how you're dishing the cards out. If they're up a little bit and you could see them.
Yeah, it's possible. So this guy said, the article said the suspect's mobile phone had been modified to include a camera on a side angle and slightly upwards as it laid on a flat table. So maybe they allowed him to lay his phone down thinking he's not messing with it. It could glimpse the undersides of the cards as they were being dealt. And then the phone modification was described as complex by the racing and gaming officials, and again, it was communicated to a guy out in the car, and then he would talk to him and say, okay, go ahead.
He could do all the heavy lifting, figuring out who's got what, and then just I mean, if there's money involved, there's surely guys would try to figure it out, right?
Advantage play. They're going to find a way to cheat. That's one. All right, we'll keep them in these moving because we got to get to our topic.
Okay. Hey, we've got a throwback to last week. I think this was last week, right?
New details, Jeremy.
Okay.
New details about this couple here. John Selman and his wife, Lydia.
This is the lady who slipped through the bars of the cashier.
Yes.
And they grabbed a bunch of cash and some chips, but mostly,
And then they found them. But the new details, the big thing, if you scroll down a little bit more, is it says under the weather. He worked for the National Weather Service for over 20 years. So this guy is like in the meteorological community.
The pay is it's just not good enough.
I don't know if it's that or he had some extracurricular activities he got into. But anyway, he was just a good guy from South Dakota, married his sweetheart there, and life was doing good for him. And then they went on. But the thing that they caught him by, if you go about the heist, is, again, it goes back to their car. Both a day earlier, she and her husband were charged with, where was that? Police said they discovered the couple's identity because their Nissan hatchback with its license plate was videotaped by a police body cam during an unrelated police visit to the property on the 25th, which I guess was the day before.
He had a custom license plate. It said weatherman or something.
Big funny man or something.
Yeah, NBC4 weather or something.
Yeah, but the funny part was this guy who wrote this article said he reached out. They've reached out to the National Weather Service and they've got no comment. They have yet to comment back on it.
I'm not sure exactly why they would comment on someone's dealing with. That's funny.
It's funny. It cracked me up.
Yeah.
And our last one, there you go. You want to hit play a little bit?
Who's this guy? Yeah, we'll see this guy.
And you got some volume on there if you want. I don't know if you want to play it or not, but that guy is basically, if you're not going to play the volume, he's getting kicked out of a casino at Cherokee in North Carolina, supposedly. And he said he called the people at Cherokee, and he was there to collect his money. He went to Cherokee to collect his money. I think it was what was it, 137. There you go, right there.
Yeah, I paused it there.
Yeah. So can you read the fine print? I can't see it. I think it's 135.
His ticket was 143, it looks like.
Right, 143, and the payout.
And the win was like 357. So
total of
payout was $500,000, $500,000.
$500,000. So he went to get his money, and they said, no, we're not giving it to you. We're kicking you out. But I tried to find on yesterday, Saturday, I spent a long time trying to find anything on this story and update. And it does look legit. It does look like they posted it on the Caesar.
Yeah, it's funny. They used it as a marketing piece. Like, hey, one of our gamblers won $500,000, which is what casinos tend to do. Hey, someone hits a big jackpot, but then they don't pay the guy.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's a couple things. One is I don't know if he went to the casino and said, hey, I'd like $500,000 and 20s or whatever. And they was like, no, we don't do that. We've got to give you a check. Or if
it's like a lot of things on the internet. It's like people create situations where, for clicks and views and stuff. And we don't know. It's like the video always starts too late or it ends too early and you don't get the payoff or whatever. And it's just like, what happened? But yeah, I mean, he could have marched in and said, yo, I want the cash like right now. And they're like, no, we told you we have to mail it to you, or who knows what the situation is. But the video makes it seems like you guys aren't paying me my money. Right. And it's, lots of drama, but who knows? I mean,
don't film me. Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that casinos, they're in the news every once in a while for just not paying out and finding whatever reason they can to not pay you, or, malfunctions and voids. And they're in the business of taking in money, not paying it. They're like an insurance company, right? Yeah, and they hire insurance companies to do the same thing. Hey, insure us in case someone hits these jackpots and we have to pay it out. But they don't want to pay it out. They only want to collect it. Good business.
This way. Yeah. That is true. Very true.
So, we just kept it short for the news. So, I think we're ready for the topic. And this is tough. You are an adamant, how would you describe this? Just how would you say you
skeptic, non-believer?
A skeptic, non-believer is kind of light. I would call me a skeptic. I would call you an anti. I don't know.
I don't know if I'm anti. I listen. If you want to believe in the Easter Bunny, you go right ahead.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're a little more harsh. You kind of make fun of these people, and it's just. I have no problem with it. I love it. I mean, it's obviously good for the game. It makes it fun. It makes it interesting.
More people, more people.
But it will be a little difficult for me to defend this. But what I thought I would do is try my best. I've heard a lot of reasons. And usually in my comments, I play devil's advocate all the time. I make arguments that I don't necessarily believe in just to get people thinking. That's what I do in my comments a lot on YouTube. But I figured maybe you could be the prosecutor here, and you got to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. If you need any help from the comments, you can bring those up.
Okay.
Actually, let me go ahead and just throw up the comments so people can say whatever they want. And
by the way, don't forget, we changed the screen this week so we could get the comments up here.
Yeah, so they may be helpful, they may be not, but we'll definitely try to get to them during the monster roll. So if you need their help, you can. But you're going to prosecute and prove without a shadow of doubt that it does not exist. And I'm going to do my best to defend it and give you some of the reasons that people tell me why it is real. So how do you want to start this? What is your opening?
My opening argument. Huh?
Your opening argument, Professor. Lawyer Jim. Today you're Lawyer Jim.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yeah.
Many years ago, they opened the first craps table, probably 100 years ago.
Yeah,
and
at least,
people have been trying to find edges or advantage plays ever since. Correct? In every game.
Now we're putting cameras on phones with earpieces to the guy in the car. Yeah. We want to gain an advantage.
Gain an advantage. So, craps is the only game that I know of where you can physically control, quote unquote, the outcome of the game. They let the player toss the dice. They don't have a machine that does it. They don't have a dealer. They want randomness. Correct?
Yeah, like roulette. You don't get to touch the ball. Other games. But craps, you get the hands on the dice. You control the outcome.
You have perceived control.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt your opening argument.
No. So I'm saying from the beginning, you do have control. You can set the dice. You can touch the dice. You can line up where you're going to throw, maybe even get a particular spot. And I do believe that you have dice control right up to the point that it leaves your hand. But after that, because of a variety of factors, I don't think there's any scientific data that will show that anybody can control the dice or can influence the dice in such a way that is outside the realm of random chance or any particular period of time. And I've seen no scientific studies that prove it. I've seen no anecdotal evidence. In spite of your video this week, I thought you had jumped on the dice control train. But I did like the way you slowed the camera down and put all the stuff on it. So
for those who didn't see this, I filmed with Dice Setters. He's a YouTuber, and after the roll, he said, this is why I believe there is some you can influence the dice a little bit. And so I shared a video.
What was the title?
It was a live roll in Ellis Island, so real casino, real environment. You threw the dice, and what I did was I marked every time where it landed, and then I marked where the dice came to a stop. So not scientific. I was just having fun with it. I got some grief like, it's not very scientific. You don't know how he's holding it. You don't know how high, how fast. And it's not scientific. It was just for fun. I'm showing where he hit and where it rolled. And, that was it. And I did a nice clickbait title like dice. This is proof that dice setting works or something like that. So I have fun with it.
The people can go look it up if they want to. And they can see a professed dice controller in action. And they could look at the dice and see for themselves. And how many sevens did he roll on that one? I don't remember. You might remember because you edited the video, but over the
a couple, there was 5. I think he was, however many rolls, I think he was under what he should have been because it was 41 rolls, which means there should have been 6 to 7 rolls. So he was under, I think he was like at maybe 5 or something. So he was under average, which there you go. Bam.
Yep.
Right there's proof that he, and that's the key. So I think a lot of people have moved away from dice control, which I guess we should define this. But although there are some camps that say, hey, I've had them contact me and then they never appear. I'm like, oh, cool. I will come out and film you. Because they say there used to be, I don't hear it much anymore, but they can actually control the dice, which means, hey, when I throw, you will see like I can call, it's going to be a 5 or 9, like when I throw the dice. Like, I don't hear that so much anymore. I think most people have moved away from dice control to dice influence. And it kind of softens a little bit. So it's not really about, hey, I have some sort of control. It's like, with my set and my roll, it has more of a tendency, or there's some influence there that I can get better desired results compared to someone like you, who just embarrassingly just throws them down there. Okay. So I have, not me personally, but their point is they have some influence versus just winging them, which makes sense. That makes common sense. Like if you're going to practice and set them up and whatever, you're trying to influence them, you should have some better influence over someone like you.
Okay.
And I can, I guess I've started my defense. Okay. If we look at sports, Jim, look at bowling. Those guys, it is like a crazy sport, and they can throw it down there, and they have some control over the ball. They're not going to get a strike every time, but, on average, they're going to be better than you, who's just, you don't practice, and you just wing the ball down there. Can you break 100, Jim, in bowling?
Yeah, I can break 100. I might even be able to do that left-handed. I don't know.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Yeah, but let me.
What about 200? Because I think a pro's like in the 250, 260 range. I don't know. I'm not a bowler. I know perfect score is 300.
I've occasionally broken 200, but usually no. And I haven't bowled probably in 5 or 6 years. So.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. If you were practiced enough.
Yes.
And like darts, same thing. I think that's an Olympic sport. No, I don't know if it's an Olympic sport. But there's so many sports. Golf, you hit this little tiny ball. So I think these are things that seemingly impossible that us influencers are able to achieve with some practice.
Yeah, I think the arguments stop short. Maybe if you're not hitting the wall, if you're not hitting the diamondback wall, which might be a nice thing to say, that you can't control the spin once it hits the back of the wall. I know some people want to hit just below the last row of diamonds, and they think if you can wedge it right there, just right, they're going to roll back a certain way. But I've never seen anybody do that consistently, and I haven't seen any data where anybody's been able to duplicate it. Or
there's plenty of dice control books. You hear stories about the Dominator, the Captain, I don't know, they all have cool nicknames, but Jim, there's plenty of stories out there about these guys that are doing it.
Yeah, and there's stories about the Easter Bunny and other people too, but that doesn't make them true. I think you have to have a little bit of science. The proof is in the pudding, right? And it's not on the in this. And if it was an actual court case, it would be the proof of the burden of proof would be on the prosecutor. Mm-hmm. But in the scientific community, the burden of proof is on you. If you want to prove it, then go ahead and prove it. But I think there are a number of physical limitations, and I'll go through a couple of them right now. But let's just talk about the physical limitations, the variability of surfaces. There's no national like a dartboard has a standard dartboard. A bowling alley has a straight up 10 pins in a certain configuration. Where in craps, there is no standard crap table. They're all different lengths, different sizes, different underlaminate, all kinds of variables.
And I think that proves one of my points is there's a reason why there's no standards, because if there was a standard, we could buy the standard and practice on it and beat them even more.
Okay.
Right? Because, right? Yeah. I mean, if there was that is, I think, one of the reasons why all the tables are different is to prevent dice controllers. I think that's one of the ways they try to trip them up a little bit.
Well,
what do you think about that?
There is a commonality. While they might not have every one of the things the same, but there is a commonality. None of them have a straight piece of plywood and felt going down, do they? There is one thing that's similar. What is that one thing, sir?
Rubber pyramid wall. They used to have 9 rows of pyramids. More modern ones, I think they have 11 rows of those little pyramids. I don't know the difference why some manufacturers have that, but yeah, they have a bunch of rubber pyramids on the walls.
And what might the purpose of those pyramids be?
Well, obviously that is to randomize the dice a little more. Mm-hmm. And I think that is why, back when this started, it got popular. It's probably been around a long time, was guys would teach this. I mean, you could find the old websites, and some of the more famous guys, their whole object was to roll the dice short of that wall and have them stop short of the wall, or just give a little kiss against the wall. You want to avoid those diamonds, because that, it makes it a lot more difficult to have influence if you're hitting those diamonds. But if you can throw them short, I personally, and I'm stepping out of my defensive lawyer suit. This is Jeremy talking. Okay. I think you can control the dice if you roll them short of those pyramid walls. There's different methods. So I know some people are on axis. I should have some dice here. On axis throwers, which means, like, if you imagine there's an axis throw it, they try to keep it on axis. So when they hit, and they just stay on that axis, because if they rotate, now you're introducing new dice combinations. So some groups want it on axis, some throw no spin, some they want back spin, some want forward spin. There is a whole group that is actually, they throw off axis. I'm not as familiar with that. I don't think it's as popular, but they throw it off axis to, I don't know. There's a lot into it, Jim, is what I'm saying. But I think if you threw an on axis throw, it hit a hard surface, you could probably get good enough without hitting those pyramid walls to have some control.
You said hard surface. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, something that's not going to
Bounce?
bounce and make them go sideways or off axis.
Okay.
And I think, in now I'm putting on my defensive argument, not that I necessarily believe this, but a lot of those guys say that is why we're seeing more and more of these bouncy tables is a defense against it, which makes sense. So does that lend credibility towards the fact? Because these casinos, we know their job is to prevent it. So diamond wall, more bouncy table, no table specifications. So they must believe it, right?
No, I don't think they believe it, because if there was one hint, say if you were a dice influencer, dice setter, dice controller, whatever you want to call yourself, you could go to your local casino and maybe duplicate, and you figure out how bouncy yours is, and you count how many rows of the diamond, right? And you could maybe go in there and practice a little bit.
And I know the guys do. They try to simulate their home table as much as they can towards their local.
Yeah, that's right. Mimic it,
which is smart.
Which is smart if you believe in it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to have fun doing that, playing at home, that's fine. But I don't think there's going to be any proof in the pudding that you're going to suddenly buy a new house because you are a dice controller, or you quit your job, or you have done X, Y, or Z on it. I just don't see it. Now, I think it looks cool when people set the dice and they look.
I know, you see them rotating through the air, like stuck together like glue, and then
beautiful. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And listen, I am rooting. I'm not a dice control hater. I'm rooting for every dice controller when I'm at a table, or perceived dice controller. Why?
Yeah, we all want to see big rolls, right?
I want to see the big long roll. And if they accidentally throw a 7 or 2 or 5 and 42 rolls, I'm all for it. But guess what? I'm a guy who's a random thrower, just like other random throwers. And I would argue that all of us in our heart of hearts are probably random rollers. But we've all had if you played enough, you probably had a 30-40 roller where you've had 4 or 5 7s that just happen to come out on the come out roll. That's a winner for the front line. And it allows you to continue and play longer before you get a 7 out and roll the 7 at the bad time on there, and then go with it. So yeah, I like I said, I'm rooting for you, got dice controllers. I just don't believe in you, but I'm rooting for you.
I don't know if I finished the definition. So I know I talked about initially it was dice control. Now it's more about dice influence. And what does that mean? Typically that means throwing less 7s than what probability dictates, right? So the math says, just because I have many dice combos, you should throw a 7 once in every 6 rolls. The average roll lasts 8.5 rolls because you have a come out factor. It's like a game, stage 1 of the game and then stage 2. If you factor that in, average is 8.5, but you should see that 7 1 in 6 times. So if you could push it back, if you can roll more rolls, a lot of guys call it SRR, 7 to rolls ratio, or SOR, 7 out ratio. They'd have different ways of calculating it, but essentially you're trying to push back the 7 more than the random number, which is supposed to be 6. So if I can push it back to 7, 8, if I could push it back to 10, if my average is 10, if I don't see that 7 within every 10 rolls, I should be able to take advantage of that. Well, I would. I would have an advantage and would potentially become a professional craps player and roller, right?
Mm-hmm. I would say a few things on that with pushing back the 7, but the guys that I've seen playing, and I know somebody just put on there about some other channels that show live rolls, which
I could talk about that, but
yeah. But when you're talking pushing back to 7, they still roll 7s. They don't roll 40 times without rolling a 7 or push it back. If you push it back one roll, so expected value of 1 out of every 7, every 8 rolls, it's still for a short period of time, and it's still within the area of random chance, within the span of random chance. And I do have some validity to my argument, and I'll get to my if you want to talk about
I don't know if he'd prefer I don't mention his channel or I do mention his channel, but I do respect this guy. His name is George from CY. I think a lot of YouTube. He's known in the YouTube world. I don't know about the common world, but he's a guy who practices he's been doing it for years. He turns on his camera, goes live, and throws the dice. Right. So this guy is practiced. And I talked to him this week, and he had something to say about my video, which is cool. I appreciate him chiming in. And bottom line, I asked him, so have you what is your data? And he said, well, really, in 2022 is when he tracked it the most. He said he had over 50,000 rolls. So
it's a lot of rolls.
That's a lot of rolls. Probably that's kind of empirical data, right? I don't know what the number is. You'd have to ask a guy like Michael Shackelford what it takes. 500 rolls is not going to do it. Probably 5,000 rolls is not going to be a large enough sample size.
Right.
He's in it for 50,000 rolls, and he was able to improve beyond random. I didn't get into the specifics, but he gave me the number 5%. So he was able to improve, I guess, avoiding the 5% or whatever. So, that's not anecdotal. You got these guys who's writing books and all this different stuff. He turns on his camera. There's no denying what he does. And he said he was able to accomplish a 5% improvement. Mm-hmm. Brings up a whole nother conversation. I'm like, well, why don't you take that to the casino and make money off it? And, he have this, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think he's independently wealthy. He doesn't need to, he just loves the skill of it. So he says, I just practice the skill aspect of it. That's what he loves. So, I can't argue, but typically I'm going to jump on the prosecution side a little bit of switching roles. But that is my biggest argument is why are there no craps professionals? You can find all the poker players. That's a little unfair because they're player against player.
Right.
You could find blackjack players that were professional. Very few nowadays. There are advantage players who took advantage of bad dealers. A lot of those guys did video poker because a lot of them pay 99 point some or even higher. Some actually have a positive EV.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so there are professionals out there. Mm-hmm. There are people that are professional sports bettors. It's just it's just a thing. But why is there no documentation? Why has no one came forward and said, I am a professional craps player?
I don't know.
If you gain an edge, yeah, sorry, I'm being a prosecutor. Yeah, well, the feedback I always get is, you don't want to be greedy. You want to go into your casino. You don't want the casino to kick you out, which is a whole nother thing. I'm waiting for the list of who has been kicked out of casino for dice control. I've heard stories from, you would know them if I mention them. I don't want to mention them. They're on podcasts, and you can hear their stories of why they got kicked out. And they're like, well, we kind of got an argument, and we didn't see eye to eye. It's never like, wow, this guy is so good and he's taking our money that we're going to kick him out. It's kind of for other reasons, ancillary reasons or whatever. There's no one, and they don't show there's a specific form whenever you're trespassed, right? Show the trespass thing. I know there was a famous YouTuber years ago. He said, I got kicked out for it. He showed the trespass paper, I think, on a live. He's since deleted, but it was because his son was filming him. Like, okay, so it wasn't about you controlling the die. How did I get off on this random thing? What was I saying before I got off on
dice players?
Oh yeah. So anyway, they usually say you can't be greedy. You want a quick win, $500 a day or a week, and be happy, right? Mm-hmm. But to me, that doesn't jive. Like if you have an advantage, you do it just like the casino. I'm not leaving the casino. Let's say you only have a small advantage. And I think the study we're going to talk about later, they said you only need 8% improvement beyond random to overcome the edge.
Right.
So actually, to think about it, George C. White, if he's only 5%, I don't know if he can gain an edge because the math guys say that it takes 8%, but that's just with a pass on it. If you do odds,
You can lower
maybe
it.
you can't. Yeah, you would have a lower house edge, and so maybe you can do it at 3%, 5%. I don't know, but they say with a pass line bet, 8% is the break even point where the house no longer has an edge. If you can do better, 8% better than random. So I'm getting sidetracked again. So many thoughts go through my head when I'm trying to be the defense and the prosecution, but yeah, they're just, the bottom line is no one's making a living off this. Some people can do well for a few years. I mean, I haven't shared my 10,000 roll data, but with all my wacky strategies that I've showed over the years and 10,000 rolls, I've actually have empirical data that I've thrown less sevens than I should have. And I was a winning craps player on my YouTube channel, on all my, how crazy is that? So I could claim that I have evidence that I have controlled the dice. Obviously I don't. In my videos, I just wing them. But the funny thing is the math over 10,000 rolls says I threw less sevens than I should have, and I walked away with a profit. So, and that's just randomly throwing the dice. You gotta talk about what is the standard deviation, or what falls within the mathematical realm of randomness. So, and the bottom line is just I'm waiting for the professional guy, which would mean you have to win enough money to pay for your household, your bills. You got to pay taxes. I mean, I know we don't pay taxes in craps, although you are technically supposed to self-report your winnings, which you can offset with losses, but no one does that, right? So, but if that was your profession, you absolutely would. You'd mark it, and then you'd say, hey, my travel expenses, my food expenses, this is what it takes. And I'm a professional craps player, right? Professional gambler. Mm-hmm. It is a real IRS thing. And I don't know. There's guys who sell courses and books, but they all had jobs. The Dominator, I forget. I don't want to put, a couple of those famous guys in those groups, right? Scobletti and all that. They were professionals. They were like engineers and this and that and the other. They didn't just become professional craps players.
So my other thing is, and I know you know the answer to this because we talked about it. The game of craps has been around for a long time. Why? When was this discovery made about, hey, if we practice enough, if we emulate the conditions? When was the first article, or when did people first start talking about dice control in the game of craps?
Like the 90s, right?
Yeah, I think 97 or whatever.
97 was what we found was when that par course was introduced. The Patterson's I don't know.
Or whatever.
Let me just, before this comment goes away,
Go
Valley, I don't know if they're for or against it. They're just saying $500 times 7 days is $3,500 per week, $14,000 a month, $160,000 a year outside of your regular job.
It's a good part-time job.
That's a good part-time job. But if you could have that advantage and did that with your part-time job,
right?
Why in the heck would you not quit your full-time job and make this your full-time, make dice throwing your full-time job, and instead of winning, $168,000, win $1 million a year?
Yeah,
there would be very difficult to cap your money if you had an advantage, right? Until you got kicked out, because I can find you an investor. If I found someone that had some empirical evidence that they can throw longer than average, I will get you the sponsor that will put up the money to go, you know what? We're betting. What's the biggest max? I don't know. Bellagio, $10,000. I don't know. I mean, we might be able to find a casino that allow bigger bets, right? Like they did in the old days, but we're betting 10,000. Okay. I'm an inside number roller. We're betting $10,000 a number. Okay. Every once in a while I'm going to get hit, right? But on average, if you're beating the math, we're going to freaking win some money, and we're not leaving.
Yeah, but they would do like they do in blackjack. What's it called? Back you off. If you
well, that's fine. Who has been backed off?
I don't know. I've never
seen. Now I'm switching to the prosecution side. Dang it! I need to stick to my side.
Hey,
you bring up the points, and I'll give you the reasons why you're full of crap, Jim. Dice control is real.
All right. You're killing me now.
I know. I'm sorry.
My computer wanted to see. Well, if it was real, again, it goes back to being a pitcher or baseball, whatever. Nobody's perfect, and you're going to get tired. You're going to have human error.
There is human error.
There's going to have human error. So
Yeah, you get tired.
Yeah, you're not going to be a winner, even with good muscle memory and all that. So I don't think it's possible on that.
Valley responded. I think this is to me. So higher amount risk equals higher attention. That is a very common excuse I hear from the casino bosses. Means higher risk of ban.
Well, that's
worth the risk.
Yeah, casino security is watching you. That was going to be a thing. They're watching you, and they're going to know. Like in blackjack, if you suddenly start betting when you have the advantage. But I mean, shouldn't you have the advantage every time you bet if you are a dice influencer or dice controller,
right?
Whatever you want to call it. So
right, you should overall have the advantage. So like, play until you get kicked out. I don't want to hear this. I'm afraid I might get heat. I might get distracted. I might get banned. There's like 3,000 casinos, Jim. Just play until you're banned. Collect $1 million and move to the next one. But no one does that because it's like hyperbole. It's this.
Yeah, I just, I'm gonna say I haven't seen anybody, and I'd have to jump on there with the different ones. But I see people posting their numbers now. But I haven't seen anybody outside of the realm of, okay, this could be random. And it's
Craftsmaster Journey. Craftsmaster Journey, a cool guy. 4,500 rolls. That's a good sample size. His SOR, which is 7 out, is 9.50, which SOR I think is the 8.5 is probability. That's the average roll. So he's beating it.
He's beating.
Is that enough to make a living off of? Certainly not.
For a long period of time, is that
right? At 45,000 rolls, does he come back? Right.
No, or is there a random roller who throws 4,500 times and he's also at 9.5
or higher? Right.
Or higher or lower. Whatever.
It is tough, and I'm not. I got to be careful. I'm not dogging anyone. I love it and I appreciate you try. Why not? Like, try to make it work. Try to get that SOR up. Get enough to a higher enough average where I think more than anything, this whole conversation for me is about, I think the Hawaiian craps guys say this is about confidence and I forget the other term, but just positive attitude, right? Like if you practice a lot and it just builds up confidence and a positive attitude, I believe more in that positive energy, positive attitude, have confidence. If you go in, like I used to be in sports, I know it might be hard to believe, but if you're like, oh, I suck, I can't make the baskets, I'm not gonna make 8 out of 10 free throws, I can't do it, versus someone who's like, I've been practicing, I know I could do it. Maybe they can't, but if they got the confidence and they've been practicing, and like your game just does better. So for me, I feel like if nothing else, maybe mathematically it can't be done, it can't be random. But I think just the fact that you have confidence and you have a good attitude is going to improve it more than anything. So it's just going to make for a more enjoyable game. Yeah, confidence and comfortability. Yeah, I like that.
And the one that I think you were trying to think of earlier was a winning attitude.
Yeah,
that was one of the one of the websites we were looking on earlier.
Darksider says positive energy does not stop sevens. True, but for me, I know I don't know what that is, metaphysics, right? Like, I don't know. To me, that's just as legitimate as someone who believes they can control the dice. Like, to me, metaphysics and positive energy and vibes, to me, is just as real as someone who believes they can influence the dice after they hit the pyramid wall. So, I mean, we could argue about that all day. Like, what works? Well, turns out nothing works. So yeah, even though I personally believe in confidence, being comfortable and having an attitude, the bottom line is ain't none of us beating the casino, or none of us are becoming professionals.
No.
So as much as I like to lean into that, it doesn't work either. So yeah, and at that point he is right.
So let's say this.
I have more fun with the game that way though.
let's say this. Say if it, and we know the game because the house edge is not a 50-50 proposition. But when we play, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And if we stop at the exact moment, we break even, right? If you could increase your odds a little bit more than 50% of the time winning, what is going to be the best way to do that? Are you going to practice to be a dice controller, or what else could you possibly do for that? I don't know. Maybe it goes back to some of the other stuff you've talked about. Could be the betting. Could be that not making the crazy bets.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would say, hey, you could make prop bets at 9% plus and overcome the house edge. Like I'm surprised that some of them will make place bets on the 5 and 9. That's a 4% house edge. Stick to a pass line with odds. You get under 0.5%. That maybe you can gain an edge, right? I mean, I don't know the math on that. How many 1 out of 20 roll? I don't know. They said 8%, right? But I don't know what that means as far as the numbers, right? But if you could just push it to 1 out of 8, or his 9.5 rolls instead of 8.5. I don't know if that covers that, but with playing, just a line bet with max odds, you might theoretically that would be the breaking point, right?
Maybe you can get closer to 50%, but are you going to win? Even then, you're not going to win more than half the time. I don't know anybody who plays who wins.
Well, yeah, because there's no professionals, right? So
I just don't
if you're
know.
winning, you had a great year. If you had 10 great years, it's still not beyond the realm of randomness. So if you've had 10 years of making that extra side income of $20,000, that is awesome. A win is a win is a win, right? Be grateful and thankful, whether it's these freaking metaphysical good vibes or it's the practicing at home, whatever it takes. I'm all for you for winning. But I would say that I'm just waiting for the craps professional or the person who's realistic and says, here's my book. All right. This is why I do this. This is my tracking. I'm not going to just remember the wins. I am keeping track of the losses. And you know what? I'm not winning as much as I think I may be winning.
Yeah. And one other thing with the different ratios, it's when the 7 comes. And I know that's what I liked about Craps Master Journey. He put when the 7 comes, when you 7 out. But we're all rolling 7s, and maybe there's somebody who can roll a little bit less number of 7s. But to me, it would be you could sell me if you could say, hey, I'm going to roll 7 7s in a row, 7 7s in a row. There's the fact is there's 36 combinations, right? And there's how many ways to roll 7? Yeah, that's
6.
not a rhetorical. Yeah, that wasn't a rhetorical question. And by the way, we are sponsored by Sports Grid. Thank you very much, Sports Grid. But
not sponsored. We're powered by.
Powered by. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't give me any money. Sorry.
Yeah. So we're powered, but not sponsored. Yeah, I got to use the right terminology. Let me try that again.
I wish I was sponsored by them.
You can get this in the edit. We're powered by Sports Grid.
There we go.
But anyway. Yeah, if you could, and I forgot what my point was right there, but yes, rolling those 7s at the same time. If you could focus in on rolling the 7s and you could get good at rolling 7s, why wouldn't you be a dark side player? Just throw it random or something, or use your best dice set and then, zero in on the 7s.
To lean into that
there's 6
average, right? Why are we fighting upstream against the 7?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's me, because bottom line, back to prosecutor's roll, each roll is independent. And everything, everywhere you go. And the ones that I saw somebody else early on, he had a argument or a comment about, have you ever won on a cruise ship? That to me is the craziest fallacy, is trying to control the dice on a cruise ship. I mean, the ship's moving, there's waves. I've been on a ship before eating where we actually had to grab our drinks to keep them from falling off the dining room table. And you're going to tell me you're going to control the dice on a moving ship? It's just crazy. It's just I don't see any way. I don't see any way you can do it.
Yeah, the bottom line is you've got to have a higher average. Keep the 7 win, have a higher average. So let's say you you promise me, you practice, I can roll. My average is not 8.5 rolls. My average is 13 rolls. If your average is 13, I would bankroll you. And I think some people are mentioning here short game, regress, whatever. I'm going to bet $10,000, whatever the table max is, for 12 rolls every time, because your average is 13. So, sure, if your average is 13, sometimes you're only going to throw 4 times, sometimes only 7. That's fine. It'll come out in the math though. But if your average is now 13 instead of 7, I'm making money because I'm betting big for 12 rolls. And unfortunately, I don't watch a lot of the guys who practice. What is your data? Mm-hmm. What is your average roll? Like, if your average roll, then freaking hammer that average and become a professional. I don't know any other way to put it.
That would be my thing is, what is your data? And if somebody, I think it was T early on. I wish I had the Thrine, but he said, "Hey Jim, would you be willing to go to a class if somebody else paid for it? Because I'm certainly not going to,
Yeah, Jim, $3,000 will teach you how. And if it doesn't work for you, you get a tune-up course discounted. And if that doesn't work for you, I'm going to tell you, you're just not practicing. You're not putting in the practice at home. It's like there's always reason. Like, why aren't you achieving it? Well, more practice, more classes. Like, and that's a sticky point for me a little bit. You a little more than me, Jim.
Okay.
I guess you're bothered by people selling courses about dice control.
Well, to me, I would just like to have a little proof. I want to see it in the pudding. I'm not going to spend a lot of money
not just a fun
on a particular
story.
product. Yeah, not on a product unless it works. I just need to see it working, and I haven't been able to do it. And then getting back to it is, maybe I know I'm not going to put in the practice for that much time. Mm-hmm. And maybe it might just go back to your baseball analogy. Maybe it's just going to be like, a baseball coach told me in Little League, "Hey Jim, you're just not that good at this game."
Yeah, it's got to be a mix, right? I'm sure it's got to be a mix of natural ability and practice, right? It's just
absolutely.
Right. I mean, that's why professional sports exist. But yeah, the class thing, it doesn't, I don't mind anyone selling course and stuff. It is weird that they can pull it off without any empirical evidence and be like, listen, here's my average. Here's how much I win every year. Like, none of that has happened. It's just like, hey, go. And if it doesn't work for you, you need to practice harder, or film your rolls, and I'll help you tweak it some more classes. And it's a tough thing. I don't mind anyone, making a living or whatever. It's just like, we're adults, buyer beware. But, I don't know. It is a weird thing when it seems like there is no empirical evidence for sure.
Yeah. I don't see it. So, I just don't see it.
What else have we not covered? I mean, we should just get to the comments, because that'll probably provide us the rest of the.
Oh, that'll give you a lot of ammunition.
I've only looked at them a little bit, but
yeah, I've been watching them go by, so I'm just like, I got to say something about this, or got to say something about that one. But I'm looking again on my. But even how about this? What if maybe it's like the Matrix, red pill, blue pill, right? Or red pill, blue pill. What if I told you it's all random, even while you're throwing it? Because there's really no other way to prove that it's not random. You could build the machine, you could emulate it. I
guess we should talk about that. That has been done, Jim. There's been a machine.
You want to try to pull that up, or it's going to knock out? Yeah.
It's a study by UNLV and Monmouth, I believe. Monmouth University.
I think it's both of them are from Monmouth. I think it says on there.
Okay. Yeah. They're the ones who did the work, and I think UNLV just wrote about.
Published it. Yeah.
I think they published it. Excuse me. So essentially, I mean, it's linked in the description for Facebook and YouTube. You can click on the link, read the article yourself. I believe this is kind of like the only, one or two official studies. And obviously they did what everyone thinks is, okay, so there is human error. The best way to decide this is mechanical, right? So what they let's see, if you're on YouTube, you can see they build a machine to try to replicate, and I mean, they got down to pitch angle, strength of throw, weight, velocity. They did all the dynamics that you would think would be involved in a scientific study. Mm-hmm. Thousands of rolls. Jim, what was the result?
So to me, you get down to it, and if you just jump to the conclusion, the last conclusion at the end of the article after the pictures, experiments and findings, you can read all that. But the conclusion, my favorite part of it, is where they get down to it. Let's see.
And how they did it is they wanted to. I think how they described it wasn't necessarily the final result. It was like however they had the dice set in there. How many times could they avoid it rolling to the 6 or avoid it rolling to the 1? So it seemed like a more accurate way to decide it as opposed to final results. Because I know a lot of people are like results orientated until you show the throw under slow motion and you see, oh, I thought my dice just turned over once. Well, it turns out it spun 4 times and then turned over once, which we can't see with the naked eye. But go ahead.
Yeah, it says, so the last paragraph over here, it says, the paper outlines attempts to answer the question, can a dice throwing machine attain a desired level of control under normal casino conditions? The relation to the human question is the fact that a machine can be built to obtain a level of consistency and mechanical outcomes beyond the abilities of the best humans.
I would agree with that, right? Machines should be able to throw it. They they should be able to handle it better than us humans.
Yep. It says the revelation to the human question fact, a machine can be built, blah, blah, blah. Our machine failed to attain the desired consistency we hope to produce. However, even in this failure, we believe the effort did shed considerable light on the possibility of either a human machine or human or other machine containing such a level. Although a more sophisticated machine can be built or the parameters for the tweaked, we are much more skeptical than before we started that such a control by either a machine or a human is possible. So they did the study, and then afterwards, they're even more skeptical about
That's
it.
not a good sign.
Not a good sign. And this looks like legitimate science. I know we've had some club members who are professors and different things, and I won't use their name, but we've got one in the club who actually works for a big university, and it's kind of famous and located, disguise it this way, famously located in a town noted for gambling. Mm-hmm. And I have suggested that, hey, I'd love to write a proposal for a grant to see if they can do it. You know, it's not possible, I don't think. And again, I hear everybody's comments. We're going to go through all of them, but you know, again, I'm not rooting against you.
We're all for you. We want the long rolls.
We want the long rolls. Everyone. I'm hoping I'm at a table when you're hitting them. I'm hoping it's the ATS, and I'm hoping it's
not me. I'm not playing the ATS, but yeah.
I know, but I will though. It's like bingo. But
hey, if you could roll it, if I see the guy rolling, and he said, "Trust me, I roll the ATS all the time." I'll bet.
You're down. Man.
I'm down with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing, I'm rooting for you. But for me and my house, I just cannot believe that there is anybody anywhere that can do it for any type of period of time.
So are the people just wasting their time practicing and stuff? Or, no, it's fun for them, I think.
No. If it's not hurting you, if it's not hurting anybody else, I'm becoming more of a libertarian the older I get.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not hurting you, it's not hurting anybody. If you're having fun doing it, sure, why not? And even if you do think you can do it a little bit, let's go for it. You know, that kind of thing. But again, you know, there are people out there who are, you know, hitting the ATS with the random roll, the lucky new shooter, the first person at the table.
The record for longest roll currently held by a rando, yeah.
Yeah, and if you read and I think it's either this one or the other article I sent you, it says what a crazy the mathematics on that roll is for being able to roll.
Oh, her Patrick, the grandma in New Jersey rolled for like 170 times, something like that.
Yeah, it's just insane.
Marble says, I need a grant to study the effects of moon phases on long rolls. Seems like I see longer rolls during the full moon. That's the point, is like, who knows what goes into effect, right?
Chips on the table,
gravity, velocity, the air conditioning, the
smoke in the room. If it's a smoking casino, I mean, who knows? There's just too many variables to me. So.
Yeah, but it is fun, and like I go back to, if it gives you confidence, you're comfortable, you're having a good time. I love it. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Earthquakes.
Yeah, tsunamis. If you're at the if you're on the cruise ship, that makes a big difference on there.
Yeah, I think there's an article I read from a psychologist, and she talked about it, and she said it's more about if there are things that we know are out of our control, and she kind of compared it. She was talking about dice control specifically, but she brought up slots, and she said it is much easier for you mentally to accept the results on a slot machine because you go into it knowing, it's random. And she says with things that you feel like you have a sense of control over, you have like this attachment to it that you feel more, I don't know, I forget how she described, but it's like, because you feel like you have a sense of control of it at the beginning, you're like more invested into it mentally, that you feel like I have some control of the outcome as well. And she related it to a couple other things, but it was kind of an interesting way to think about it. The reason I thought of it is because someone said practicing dice influence makes you feel better about losing your money, and I guess that's like the psychology of it. Like, man, if I think I have some control of it, I could accept my results a little better, right? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like I'm winning or losing because of me, as opposed to just
then random.
Yeah, I can handle that, right? Like if I go play a basketball game and I lose, well, I can handle that because I know how much practice I put in or whatever. But if I go into it and I lose, I can handle it because I had some sort of control into it. Mm-hmm. Like I know. So I don't know. It was a pretty interesting psychological article about it, but I didn't pull it up or link to it. But
I mean, there probably is some psychological. I mean, it does impact if you're feeling bad or you're angry or if you just lost a lot of money and your next throw, maybe you're going to get tight or throw long or throw short or whatever. I mean, how you think, and it goes back to the attitude.
Yeah, psychology in sports is huge, right? They have all kinds of doctors, and people got to be loose and to perform your best. So
choking and what's the other one? Choking and it's in the Malcolm Gladwell book. Choking and what's the other one? One's you think too much, one's when you think too little. Oh my gosh!
Shooter Crap says DI for me, it's like religion. You either believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, is there a God? Like, you have faith in it or you don't. I mean, there's lots of evidence that there is a God, lots of evidence that people would argue lots of evidence there's not a God. Like but there's no one who's like, come back with the data,
Their opinions.
Right. There's no one to come back from the afterlife with data and showing you, right? So there's no empirical evidence. There's no empirical evidence that dice control does not work. Just like there is no evidence that it does work, I guess. It's kind of like an argument you can have.
There seems to be some evidence that it doesn't work, but there's not enough.
There's not enough to disprove the guy in the basement practicing, and he goes out and personally sees it. He's like, I'm winning $500 a session. You can't tell me otherwise. Like, how can you argue with that? You can't. You could say, hey, yeah, but you're still rolling within the realm of random, right? You're not mathematically past, statistical data, but his experience, his personal experience.
Winning and rolling are two different things.
True.
I know a lot of people who rolled long or been at the table on long rolls and they did not color up because they either did like I did the other night and stayed too long at the table, or B, maybe they didn't bet the right way. Maybe it was a long roll, but you didn't have those numbers covered, that kind of thing. So I think,
Yeah, one thing I do appreciate about these like classes, they don't usually say, "Hey, you just got to roll good." They're usually like, "You got to learn how to bet. You got to have some discipline. They cover all the bases." So I do appreciate that. They're kind of holistic.
I think they're more honest when they definitely do that. When they say, "Hey, you've got to bet right. You can't do this. You got to understand house edge. You got to understand what the bad bets are, what the good bets are, all of that." So mad props to the people who are doing that and who are being a little more forthright about it, because it's not just about rolling a long time. It's walking away.
Man, an hour flew by fast, and it was us just gathering.
Already?
Yeah, I was looking for my clock, but I got the comments up on the screen. Okay. Jim, I don't know if you want to go through them. I say we just jump to,
Monster
for better
roll.
or for worse, we jump to the monster roll, hear what the people have to say, and buckle up. We'll see. Maybe not as many people hate us as we thought, but we'll see what happens here.
All right. Any closing comments as you wrap it up for the podcast?
No, just please, if you ever hear this, you're out there. I've been approached a couple times by people who said, "Listen, I'm a controller." None of them have said they're a professional. I'm waiting for the person who says, "I'm a professional. I can show you my book, my data. I've made." What's it take to be a professional? Depending on what state you live in, $50,000 a year. You can, I guess, if you're living in Mississippi or something, right? Mm-hmm. Here in Nevada, I think you need to earn like 75, right, to make a living. I haven't heard from anyone like that, but I have definitely heard of people who said, "I can definitely control the dice. I could throw more or less sevens and whatever." And I've usually, there's multiple I've conversated with, "Hey, come on my show. I'll air you. I'll put you on. I'll promote your channel." They back out. It never comes to fruition. And I got to give mad props to a guy a long time ago who did it. And I appreciate Dice Setters. Recently, he let me show where his landing zone was and where the dice ended up. That's amazing. Most people will not allow you because they want it out there. They want the story. They don't want the data. So a few years ago, this King Dice stepped up to the plate, and he's like the only one. I got to go over, we filmed them. We had like this, we set up the rules, 10 different roles. Unfortunately, he didn't perform as well as me throwing random.
And it was on his home court, on his table, his dice,
so. And unfortunately, a lot of people dogged him, said, and that's what I kind of don't like about it, is everyone's like, there's all these different sects and groups, and it's like, well, that guy he's not a real dice influencer. He's not a real dice controller. You got to have, the on-axis, you got to be an on-axis thrower. No, you got to be an off-axis thrower. No, you got to be no rotation guy. No, you got to be a back rotate. There's so many like different sects that like argue and fight against each other. Mm-hmm. And so everyone like piled on this guy and said like, obviously he didn't beat a random. He sucks, right? He's fake. He had the balls to come on the show and do it. Mad props to that guy. And a lot of people won't do that because you're in a no-win situation. Like you're supposed to win. If you win, people be like, big deal. You beat Jeremy, the random thrower. If you lose to the random guy, it's like a no-win situation. So I don't know why I brought that up, but I do want to give him mad props for that. But I get contacted every once in a while. I don't know, once or twice a year to be like, I can prove it. I'm ready to go. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's schedule. All you have to do, come on this link. And they're like, well, different reasons. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I don't know why people. How did I get on that, Jim?
I was asking you for a closing argument.
Oh, closing argument.
Yeah, that way.
My closing argument is no one's willing to prove it. No one has proved it. We get books about these nice stories with fun names. I think I've read a couple of them, but just give me some data and some facts and some money behind it. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, where's the money? Because if you got an advantage, just like the poker players, the blackjack players, the people take advantage of bad roulette wheels. It's been documented where it has a random game, but if a wheel's not balanced, it'll fall. And people have taken advantage of that. And it's just been documented. You could take advantage of the games but the money always follows. In craps, where's the money following? Like people say in practice. Okay. All right. We got to end this. Let's get to the people.
Yeah. All right. So that is it.
All right. First question. Jeremy from Darksider. Why do you think a pro would come on your show and tell the whole craps world that they are doing for real? People tell me this, like, we got to stay hidden. Hidden from what? Like I said, there's a bunch of, if you get banned from one casino, go to the next casino. They'll take your money. They'll play against you. So any reason why anyone else would come forward? Like I have a big platform in the craps community. It's no secret. If you could do it, just explain it. It would be a cool information for everyone if you were a professional. So come on, you wouldn't have to, right? If you're a pro, just stay at home, make 100,000 plus a year, whatever it is. I think you should be making $1 million a year or more if you really have an advantage. But if you make a living at it, awesome. You don't have to come on my show and prove it. But my point is, like, why not? It doesn't hurt anything, and it would just be fun information for everyone. Like, Daniel Negreanu is not in hiding and keeping it a secret how he wins millions a year in poker. Well, I think this last year he lost like $2 million. He had, there are ups and downs, but overall he could show you, your lifetime earnings of $80 million or whatever these poker players, and same with blackjack players. It is and was a real thing. Have your name on the internet. Like, it don't hurt anything. You're not going to get banned for life. And if you do, you've already won millions of dollars, I imagine. No one's going to stop you. I don't know. I just don't buy that argument of, hey, we should keep it a secret if they were really a pro. I mean, if you're a pro, then you would mark on your IRS form professional gambler, and everyone would know you. And for one, the casino would just ban you. They just would. They'd back you off just like anywhere else. I'm just waiting for that person.
I got one right here for you. Lee said, I guess we went 1 hour and 12 minutes too long because he said shortest live stream in history. For him, it was
right from the get go. He factored fiction. He just said fiction. I'm out. I don't need to hear the rest. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. He said going somewhere else.
Tracy says, "Does anyone make a living at it?" Yeah, I make a living at it. You
make a living at what?
Craps.
No, she didn't say, do you make a living at it? I think she's
as a dice controller. Yeah. That's the tricky part. Like, the guys who teach and have classes, I mean, they make good side income. None of them I know of that went full time. I've actually went full time with the game of craps. It's because I have advertisements running on YouTube. I've grown a viewer audience. It's like TV. It's just how the game works. Mm-hmm. I don't have a side job anymore, and that's all thanks to craps and people who watch and appreciate me blabbing on. So that's really cool. But yeah, it revolves around the game of craps, but it is not. I do not make a living off of craps. I have not kept, honestly, good track over the years. I would assume I'm a lifetime loser just because that's the math of the game. But like I mentioned earlier, on YouTube, I have 10,000 rolls of data documented where actually, with all the strategies I've run, I won money and threw less sevens than I should have. I'd love to get that episode put together for you with that data, but
Here's one here. This is not a question. He says he believes that with enough practice and consistency, you can minimize big red. As far as control, meaning rolling a particular number at will, I'm not so sure. So yeah, it's how you define it,
Yeah, I think that's what people went from control to influence. Like they think, hopefully you can roll less big red, right?
And then how about this one? This one might be for me why dice control isn't real. Is his biggest argument. There's no way the casino would know that and implement even more rules to combat against it. I mean, as far as I know, when we looked up the data a couple of weeks ago, those tables and data, each table is what, $1 million plus. And you said
it earns $1 million. Yeah,
earns $1 million. So that, like you said, there's not a lot of real estate in a particular spot that earns $1 million, even if they're a slot machine or whatever. $1 million's a lot. Of course, they've got a lot of expenses with those too.
So my argument for that is, why don't casinos ban you? I've heard this argument, Jim, so I got a defense for that.
Okay.
Very few put in the time and practice and get good enough to actually have an edge. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the elite of the elite athletes that can control the dice and gain an edge and win money consistently. I don't know what the number is. Mm-hmm. 1 out of 5,000, I don't know what the number is. But if a casino allows them to keep playing mm-hmm. and winning, because we know no one's a professional and taking them for $1 million. So if they just keep coming in and win their $500 and they tell all their friends about it, and 1,000 people come and play and lose their money because they think they can control the dice or they try, then it's a net win for the casino. It's like great marketing. What do you think about that argument?
I think it's...
I don't think they would allow anyone, right? It would just be like, if you're winning on a consistent basis because you're a good roller, you're out.
Yeah, here's one here. I love this one. I experienced this one the other. It says, why does the casino subtly and not so subtly do everything it can to knock a shooter out of his groove when he's on a hot roll? Do you have an answer for that? Yeah. Again, it goes back to the security cameras. They're superstitious too, and they are superstitious. They don't believe in it, but they're gonna come out for the fill. For like we were at the other night, guy was on a big roll, and here comes the fill. And I was just like, confirmation bias. I don't know.
Confirmation bias is more of it for me, right? For one, on a big roll, yeah, they got to come out for a fill. They got to fill the thing. Everyone says, oh, the stick change gets me. Yeah, you know what? They have work rules and they have to rotate every 20 minutes. Yeah. The daggone cocktail waitress and came up and asked the shooter, you know what? It's her job to come by and ask for the whatever. We're talking about coolers, right? And most of those things are like, you remember something's got to end of the roll. Might as well be the dice off the table, the waiter coming, the stick change, the fill change, the guy who coughed wrong, the girl who spilled her drink. There's a million reasons why we remember when the big roll ended. We never remember all the short rolls and why they ended. Yeah. So to me, a little bit of that is a little superstition. Hey, my wife is chiming in here.
Oh,
says,
get her.
You take cruises due to craps. That's winning. Yeah, it's winning in her book, right? Because, I'm earning free cruises off of my craps play. So yeah,
are they free? Are they free or are they prepaid?
No, so far, 5 cruises booked. I'm definitely not prepaying. I mean, I'm paying port fees and taxes.
Okay.
But yeah, I've probably net lost $500 maybe.
Okay.
That's very specifically about $500 for 5 cruises.
You want a craps question in general? Here's one from Skill and Luck. CQ says laying the 6 and 8 only is best. I like laying the 9 with the 6-2, 6-2 set, trying to stay on axis. Wager me this, loves this lay. 10, we are all trying to hedge, protect, that don't pass. That's a lot in one question, Skill and Luck. for me on the East Coast this time of night, so...
Casino Quest likes laying the 6 and 8. I'll start there. They pay the best. You lay the 6 and 8, right? You get paid 5 to 6. Mm-hmm. The 4 and 10, hey, they only show up 3 out of 36 rolls, but when they do, you only get paid half, right?
Right.
They only pay 1 to 2. So what number? I mean, if you're a setter and you could avoid certain numbers, there you go. That's how you bet.
Okay.
So that's what you should bet on or avoid, depending on what numbers, people, I know a lot of these practicing people say they get predominant numbers. If you throw a lot of 9s, don't be laying against the 9, right? You should be betting heavy on the 9, lay against some other number.
Here's another one here. Yeah, you answered this one. Have you played on the cruise ship and won a lot on a cruise ship?
Not an overall winner yet. After the first cruise, I was up and a winner. The second cruise, I gave quite a bit back, but overall,
Jeremy, I would argue that you and your wife and family are a winner just by being on the cruise. So good job on that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you know after I've taken my my third cruise, because it's on a smaller ship. I know some people don't like the smaller ship, so we'll see. I don't know how many it takes before you go like, yeah, cruising. My brother, his very first cruise, I talked to him into going one because he gets all kinds of stuff from MGM. And they're like, hey, here's a cruise, and he went on one. He's like, not for me. I'd rather go to Vegas. Okay. But for me, I loved it. So I don't know.
Here's one here that says it's possible. Bam says he believes it's possible, but probably less than 1% of the craps players in the world have this ability, because it would take such dedication, and 99% of the players don't have the ability, dedication to do it. Or you have your own table to practice. Where are you going to do that?
I hear that a lot, right? The argument is like, well, it's probable, but only cool. Mm-hmm. Who's that list? Who are those people that could do? Who's the 1%? We know who the 1% is in gymnastics, right? We just see him on TV last week.
Yeah, baseball.
We know the 1% in poker. I mean, if we bring it back to gambling, we know the 1% in poker.
Yeah. Here's another one here. This one is I did have one of his articles in Shackelford. You mentioned him earlier, but yeah, the mathematics of dice control, and he talks about with Wong and his experiment with him.
He's tried to do some tests and pretty inconclusive. He said he's not really a believer, very skeptical.
Here's another one. I don't know this one. I'm going to write this one down to look at it. Let me click on it and see mathematical analysis of dice control techniques. Jeffrey D.F. What's that? Wang. Wang, I guess, not Wong. Wang. Jeffrey, mathematical analysis. So I'm going to look that one up. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'll get that off of there. No.
Jim, why do you think there are not very many women at the craps table? I'm usually the only one. Kind of off topic, but do you have an answer for that?
I don't know. I think it's very intimidating, first of all, for not just women, just for everybody. I think you got to have a certain personality. And most of the time, it's close quarters, right, at a craps table. And if you're the only girl and you got people butting up against you, literally
uncomfortable.
Yeah, uncomfortable. So maybe that's some stuff with it. But I don't know. But we've got members in our club, in the Color Up Club, who are women who are excellent shooters and great people to be around and great people.
I would think our club has a larger percentage than the rest of the average table for sure, which is cool. Part of it had to do, I mean, the popularity of the game came about during the war, cruise ships. So these are all predominantly male, playing on battleships or whatever, and during the war times. And then afterwards, the 50s and 60s, as embarrassing as those times went, it was like the wife stayed at home and the guy went out to smoke the cigar and gamble, right? So I think it's just kind of those factors. It's just kind of been male dominated, and I don't know. It certainly doesn't have to do with knowledge or skill or anything like that. So we'd love to see more ladies in the game. But yeah, I think just traditionally in history, for better or for worse, played a role in that. And it just takes a certain character, right? I don't know.
And then
personality.
Here's one here, weary buyer. I think I said this earlier. He said dice up until they hit the wall. After that, randomness is undeniable. But
that's where I'm at. You say once they leave your hands. I'm going to give it to him that all the way until it hits those pyramids, because I think you can control the dice on a flat surface. They called it. There's a name for it. Speaking of the people who the military guys on ships would do, because they'd play like on blankets and stuff. There was no
blanket
wall.
Roll. Yeah, the
blanket roll. So they'd keep it on axis and would roll, because there was no end. And so I think you can get some control before it hits those daggone pyramids. Who invented those pyramids?
But then you got the chips on the table, the different spots. If like one landing zone's been peppered, there's going to be dimples in the underlay, and is it really going to keep rolling straight? I don't know about that one. But there are believers also, Jeremy. We've got believers. Brazilian who's commented before, said it is very real. Followed the dominator's advice and significantly increase the amount of times they roll on the table. So there's people both ways, you know.
Personal experience. You can't. How can I argue with that?
You cannot. It's his.
If he rolls longer, I mean, I would love to know if he actually kept track and is rolling longer as opposed to confirmation bias. But I can't argue with personal experience.
No.
If it's real to him, it's real.
Yeah. Let's see what else there. There are so many funny comments by Darksider. Darksider, you were the most active commenter tonight. But
thank you for listening and for your comments, sir.
Yeah.
Your participation in the show.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is one of the nicer comments. He says, "Hey, I don't care who's throwing. I follow the dice or rolling in the moment." Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's a trend guy, I believe.
Guy.
But
yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, like we said, like, hey, we're rooting for you. We're not be like, oh my gosh, the guy's setting his dice. He's trying to. It can't be done. No. We're like, let's go. Come on, buddy.
Yeah. And
we're rooting for you.
Waylon's got a good comment down there too about dice setting and stuff too. I saw down there. I'll get to that one, or you can get.
From my understanding, I don't know. I didn't really have any perceived notions. There's so many YouTubers that are into dice control. I just assume he was, but it seems like from some of his comments, I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He is a believer.
He said he's going to continue on one of his comments. It's toward the bottom, and I'm back up at the top of the list. And he said that he's going to continue dice setting because he's been playing like 30, 35 years. So, and if it's random, what does it hurt? You know?
Yeah, nothing. It hurts nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It couldn't get any worse.
No, I don't think so.
Random.
Yeah,
so,
because random is random.
Random's random, so you can't get any worse.
Says this guy, Marble Fork Band, says he compares it to a professional magician who practices a single move thousands of times. Just that he doesn't have some felt and a diamond wallet hit on there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it would be right. So like if you're, I don't know how to think of it. Like if you're doing a cup and ball trick or something over and over so you can hide the ball. But there was no, like there's a rule, like there's, like it's a clear glass table or something, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they set up a rule, which I'm trying to think of, like what would be the pyramid bumper? Like practice all you want. The trick's not going to be.
Yeah, you're not going to say which cup it is if you know all three are empty.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
I'm glad at least somebody.
I like the analogy. I like the thinking, but I don't know if that.
Somebody got my humor, and you might recognize the people in that screenshot, but Easter Bunny. But then right afterwards, I forgot. We might have children watching this. Easter Bunny's not real, so
it's still real to me. Dang it!
Exactly. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
So you're way at the top. Let's see.
Yeah. You're supposed to be working from the bottom.
I'm sorry. I was just listening to you.
That's a mistake. Yeah. And the slow-mo camera is the big one. And Darksider brought it up a few times. But the slow-mo camera, which you, even with your not like super slow-mo camera.
Yeah, I did a 60 frames and put it on a 24 for those technical 24 frame per second timeline. It slows it down a little. I think like 40%, but.
Yeah, even with that, you can't. If you could show me on a super slow mo that you're hitting just below the last diamond, and it's rolling back a certain way, I might believe in it.
All right, staying this way.
Yeah, staying on that.
Yeah, it is interesting. There's like there's programs out there and stuff that help people. Like, okay, and that's smart, right? Okay, if I start with like 6 on top and 6 here, and they do like 2 different color dies, which makes sense because you got to know which is which. Mm-hmm. So I know if it lands here on a 5, well, it rotated over. Mm-hmm. But when you watch in slow motion, you go, and then you go, oh, it rotated it one time over. No, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah. If you look at the super slow mo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slow-mo guys. I think they have. They probably have done something on dice.
I don't know. Let's see.
I've done a slow-mo video where I had it was like 2 years ago. I rented a camera that did 240 frames per second, and they were jumping and jiving. But feedback, good or bad, it is what it is. They said, yeah, but it was you throwing, Jeremy, so that's why they spun and reacted so crazy. Like I should have had like, I don't know who someone who was really well practiced and could throw and land in an exact spot really good, and then look at it under slow motion. Because me throwing under slow motion, of course it's crazy because I throw crazy. So it's kind of a valid point, but kind of not a valid point. I don't know.
How about this one? Some people who are killing it have been told to pass the dice. Have you ever seen that?
Nope, never.
Me neither.
Who?
Yeah, I don't know. That was...
Yeah, just a random. I hear a lot of anecdotal stories, and then usually when I push back, I'm like, someone the other day was telling me, a lot of people get backed off the table. I'm like, who? Who's the list? And he said, he finally said, like, you're right. I've just kind of only heard anecdotal stories about it. I don't know of anyone, and I don't, who has been backed off?
How about this one? What do you respond to this one? Daryl Q. Drop a pair of dice 6 inches from the floor. They roll all over. I mean, you can make it that simple? Just drop them on the floor and then see if they stay on axis. Yeah,
6 inches?
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, they come out of your finger weird. I think if you practice enough, you might be able to make them hit flat. And I think, minimize how many times, right? We're not trying to, we're just trying to minimize the effects. Minimize the effects. So I think, without hitting a pyramid wall, 6 inches, flat table, I think someone could get good enough to minimize how much they roll. So,
okay.
I think you could to a degree. So that's where we kind of differ a little bit.
All right, here's another one. This one is on my side. Little Joe 71. It's not control. It's not even influence. Once you let them go in the air, as they turn, they hit the table, then hit the wall, then they hit the table again, and then roll to the top. He's like, come on.
It's just like, come on, man. Come on, man.
Exactly.
Craftsmaster, I'm pretty sure he's a believer, but he said, I've never seen anyone backed off unless they have been disruptive to the game. Yeah, I've heard, I don't want to mention, famous dice controllers have done podcasts and whatnot, and the stories they say of why they backed off were not dice related. They were ancillary stories, and backed off, not even trespassed, not you can't come back. It's just like, leave, come back whenever you're not drunk, essentially, or arguing or whatever. And where's who's been trespassed? 86. I don't know. Trespassed, not allowed into a casino property.
Yeah, that's an easy one to,
because they have books, right? People, casinos pay subscriptions to the Golden Book or whatever to know who are the advantage players, and they won't let you play.
And they want you to have an ID when you check out, because if you're on the property illegally and you've won, then it's probably another reason not to pay you. Yeah,
we're not going to pay you because you've been trespassed. They have a book of trespassed people, and casinos pay big money to know who these people are. If your name's in it,
let us know.
For dice control, let us know. Badge of honor. That'd be freaking sweet.
Here's another one. Dice control is just as real as turning off your bets when the dice go off the table. Whatever makes you feel good. Yeah.
Works 1 in 6 times, I'm telling you. It does.
Your math holds up.
Pretty sure. Okay. You can check me on that, but
check you on
it does work.
Okay.
At least 1 in 6 times over the long term, whatever that means.
Long term, sorry. Oh shoot, I messed up.
Oh, here's one.
Messed up comments.
You have to set fast. I have been talked to about taking too much time setting. So there are some people say this is evidence, Jim. I'm going back to my defense mode.
Okay.
In Windover, which is not near me, but on the border of Utah. Mm-hmm. Is it Utah? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
All the tables there have signs, placards that say "No dice setting allowed."
Okay.
That would be evidence that they don't want people dice setting.
Do they enforce it though? Because I've seen signs like that.
No, they really don't enforce it. I think they use it as a fallback rule because I see people set dice setting there all the time. The problem is there are those people who just take forever and don't know that the bottom of a 6 is a 1. If they don't know that, they're rotating their dice, they're taking freaking forever. Mm-hmm. And they go, no, look at this sign, no dice setting. So if you take too long, their game, because the probability is in their favor, they want as many rolls per hour as they can get. Because that means every roll, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Oh, yeah.
Because they play the math game, right? It's not about winning and losing. Hey, you win $500. Congratulations, Jim. Here's a free hotel room to come back next time. But we know if we can keep the dice moving,
that's right.
Yeah, the math will get you and we're going to win.
And they don't care if you individually win, if 15 other people at the table lose 5.
See, that goes back to my, they'll allow some dice controllers.
What do you say about this one? Skill and Luck, I know, is on his side of the fence. There are channels which only show live rolls, which should show you any proof that you need.
Yeah, I saw that comment earlier, and that's when I brought up George from Cyprus, George from CY, his channel. Mad props to that guy, shows it live all the time. I asked him his data, and he said 5% improvement. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy, great looking throw, has been practicing for years, collected the data. Yeah.
I just, and again, show me the data. Is that all of his throws, or is the only time he practices when it's live? Is that, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but he wasn't. I think the point was he wasn't saying like, yeah, I've got a huge advantage and now can beat the casinos for big money. He was just saying, mm-hmm. I believe I can throw less 7s, and I've proven it over 50,000 rolls, which is, cool. Again, it goes back to his home table and mm-hmm. controlled conditions or whatever. That could be a whole nother argument.
Said Dr. Options Bubble Crap. You only have to push the 7 down to 15% on a long haul to be successful. There's a disclaimer though, if your bets are correct.
Yeah. He says 15%. These math guys say it's little as 8 if you stick to 1.4% house edge. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And Thrine had this one. I know he's hopped off, but yeah, would I do it if someone paid for it? I don't think so. It would be
the comment went up and then went away. What would you do?
So I'm sorry. I accidentally clicked off it. It said, Jim, we know you wouldn't pay for one of those dice setting classes, but would you go?
Oh, you mentioned that.
Yeah, if someone paid for it, like Golden Touch. No, I
Jim, I have the courses.
Yeah.
People, at least the ones have created like DVD classes.
Okay.
Viewers have mailed them to me, and I've watched them. I could probably,
for a fee, train me.
Jim, can you imagine? I have some influence in the world.
You do.
I could probably get 10 guys a month to pay me $995 because I don't have to have evidence. No. I just say, I'll just start taking it serious and charge them $1,000 a month, 10 people. That's $100,000 a year I can make probably selling 10 dudes a month, which I could surely get 10 dudes a month. I would feel like such a schmuck. I don't know if I could live with myself, but
10 dudes a month.
That would be so easy, right?
10 dudes on Sunday night. You might have 10 dudes every Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like I said, if the results are poor, I would just tell them they need another class or whatever. Like, I don't know.
I think, Jeremy, the reason why you haven't done that is because you have a conscience.
Yeah,
You're not a shyster.
Well, I'm just not a believer, right? I haven't had personal experience or saw it that I could, in good conscience, sell you a class on it. But it would be easy money, I think, for me.
Here's one here where it says,
hey, John.
Yeah, he was in earlier, and I know he had to bounce probably for his own show, but it says, I've shown in slow motion that it is possible, proves it's possible, proves it. Now, can I do it even 1% of the time? No, but it's absolutely possible to hit the diamonds and stay on axis. And then he had followed it up with this one. He said that 99.99% of the guys out there are selling it or snake oil, selling dreams. Trust this. It's possible, but it's highly, highly improbable.
Okay, who's the 0.01% that is not selling that it's real with? Who is that person? I want to know who that one is.
Well, I tell you, I think he's in the chat tonight, apparently. I think.
What do you mean?
Do you see the comment he made earlier? It's, I think it was Craftsmaster Journey. He said he's not charging anything, and he's documenting his journey on there. Yeah. So,
but he also said his average is like 9.5.
Yeah, which is probably in the realm of.
Is that better than 8%?
It is, but I mean, is it better than? Is there a random shooter who's probably at 9.5? We talked about that earlier, but I don't know. But at least what I like about him is he said straight up he's not charging.
Well, there's tons of them out there. Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's lots of them that share what they practice and stuff without charging. And I mean, I'm not trying to pick on those. And again, I'm not against them completely charging or adults and buy whatever you want. But it's interesting that even John says 99. It's hyperbole. He's just picking a number just to prove a point, like 99.99%.
Yeah.
Just fake. About so but I want to know who is that 0.01%? Like who does John think is the real deal throwing in slow motion and it's real?
Maybe somebody will reach out to him. And then here's one here I wanted to bring up. It says, think about a baseball hitter. They're great if they hit 3 out of 10, 30% sex rates at Dyson, which is much higher than the academic article linked by the professor. And that's true. And just full disclaimer, I had some comments with him, and we had some dialogue on your Discord channel specifically about the video that you put this week, and it was on a video link, and I posted that same thing that we used today, the article, and he's in that line of business. And so he's just throwing some wood on the fire there, so which is cool.
Okay, so if bats are precision made, I think Louisville Slugger still makes them to this day for the pros, right? They're very precise instruments. What if they were just all warped and knotted and stuff? Do you think the numbers would go up or down? I'm trying to think of a way to add pyramid bumpers to the game, right? There's like we mentioned bowling, right? Early. So I get this argument sometimes like, listen, even though we're dice influencers, sometimes we do get the 0.7 out. To me, that just means you're random. Because if you look at a skilled bowler, he don't throw I was thinking, well, he don't throw under 100. He don't throw a gutter ball. Like, it's just not a thing. He's so skilled, they just won't even throw a gutter ball, let alone get below 100 or 200, right? Their average is at 260, 270. Again, I don't know what the number is. It's weird. I would think it'd be like 290 because perfect game surrender. It's not. It's like 260, 270. But
I think that's a better argument putting the numbers out there. They're not going to throw a 10. They're not going to throw 20 out of 30.
It doesn't fall way back. Like if you're a controlled dice guy, like I understand you can't always throw 10, but you should never be throwing 2. If you're throwing a 2, there must be some randomness in it. So, and then I guess they say, well, maybe there is some randomness into it. We're just trying to influence. But if there's some random, there's a lot of random to me.
So here's one more coming back, and he's probably bounced by now. But Easy 8 Jacob says if a craps player went 5 times a week and 1 on average, 1.5 times per week, they would go broke, but still showing dice influence. Hypothetically, I'm not sure no professional is the best argument. So he's saying you could have influence and you'd still go broke because of the house edge. But maybe if you had the training and knew how to bet.
No, that means it's random.
Yeah.
Like that means it's random.
Mm-hmm. To me, it does anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because I can bowl a strike, and I can bowl a gutter ball. I do.
mm-hmm.
I can't consistently roll a 280 because if I did, I would be a professional, and the money would follow. So I'm not like if it's a skill that you could achieve to get beyond random, the money will follow. Mm-hmm. So I'm not buying that.
Well, here's one, and this is how I would try it from Joseph. He said, check out the article from Scientific America. Not sure if it transfers the craps, but with a coin flip, which side is facing up affects the outcome. I don't know about that. Which side? Because with dice, professional dice, it's not like a coin. The coin is not like shaved one way or the other. They don't care which way the coin flips. It's not mathematically balanced if you cut it in half, I don't think, right? The George Washington's face sticks out a little bit more in the quarter than the backside of the quarter, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're not precisionally engineered to be balanced and perfect.
Right. It's like if it's one peak, what's the word on the die? The holes in the pip. Yeah, I don't know why I said peep. Maybe I was thinking about Easter again. Peeps. But anyway, yeah, they're all, whether you have 6 or 1, they're all balanced on each side. So.
I don't like name dropping, but this guy asked, so Heavy and his gang are snake oil salesmen. And we were just actually looking at his website before we started. Mm-hmm. I don't know about the others. I can't speak to him. I seem to think Heavy's a pretty decent guy. He has on his list, he had a list of 7, how you're successful. Do you remember that list? I know that dice influence was number 6 on the list.
I've got it up. And if anybody online is listening or the YouTube, it's called The Truth About Craps.
There you go.
And he's got at the bottom of that article, he's got so what makes a successful craps player? 1 is knowledge of the game. 2
knowledge.
2 is sufficient bankroll.
3
conservative betting approach.
Okay.
4 good money management skills.
Okay.
5 discipline.
Okay.
6 the ability to influence the outcome of the roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7 is a winning attitude.
Hey, the metaphysics like me. Yeah. So it's interesting. A guy like him, it's not top of the list.
Yeah.
It's number 6 out of 7. So I mean, I think he's one of those guys. And again, I don't know, maybe they're all like this. I just don't know. More of a holistic approach, which I appreciate and can get behind that. He's not saying, hey, dice control is the only way. I mean, it's at the bottom of his list.
Mm-hmm. And he's done.
I agree with his list.
He's done some cruises and things, and he's got a good community over there. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So but like you said, he put on there, and I think everybody who would be honest about it would if you're going to talk about, hey, it's not just increasing the roll, it's how you do at the end of the day. I mean, nobody's giving you other than the jacket or a hat or something. Like we had one of our, who was it? At the conference who got something from Fremont, got the hat.
Yeah, I think a couple guys scored the hat.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who it was. It's driving me crazy. I'm tired. So if you're watching and listening,
we'll wrap this up, Jim. Yeah, but they take it's a whole approach, and I appreciate that from guys like that. So I don't mind that, not at all.
Yeah.
It's a good way to approach it.
Yeah, I wanted to get to before we left.
But yeah, you got to be able to bet. You're not overcoming if you're just going to do prop bets. I don't care how good of a throw you are. I mean, you want to put it. I'll put my foot down on that. Ain't no dice controllers winning. There are some out there though that teach just hopping bets because that's I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, where is it at? Where was it at? Waylon had some good ones on there. Yeah, Waylon says slow-mo to Waylon. Waylon's Way Crap said slow-mo proves it's all random, but it doesn't hurt to try. Laugh out loud. So Waylon had some good comments on her earlier.
I don't know. Pro Crap said he saw slow-mo and it proved that it can be done. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess everybody's got a opinion on that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's what's magical about this game too. Can you imagine if everyone was born as us and there's like, there's no chance to win. You're just playing to lose. And then everyone would just go home, and why would we play? Mm-hmm. Well, we play because we know that it can win because we believe in random, but if you believe a little more,
you can go for it.
Go for it.
Let's see. I'm working my way down. And here's another one that proves that craps is very close to religion. Whalen coming in. 3 things in life guaranteed. Dying, Jesus coming back in the 7s. Always coming.
Every roll ends in the 7. So
every last one of them, Jeremy. Every one of them. Even the lady who had the big monster roll. She finished up with a what? A 7.
Hey, this easy Jacob's still here. Steph Curry fails 50% of the time. But is considered the most controlled shooter of all time. Also professional. Let's not confuse the social construction professional with statistics. I don't know how to decipher that. I know he does fail a lot, but he was way above random. Mm-hmm. And he has proven that he's better than the average by a long shot. And he gets compensated accordingly.
So, yeah, he's saying the social construction of making a living, I guess, with stats. And it goes back to the numbers again. So
right, but what I'm saying is he's above average, so the money follows. Mm-hmm. If he was average, if he was only average, he wouldn't get paid. Mm-hmm. If he's below average, he'd get laughed at, like me.
Okay.
Like I can't shoot 50% 3-pointers, right?
Well,
so
you can't shoot 50% with nobody on the court trying to block.
Yeah, let alone another 6'10" professional trying to stop me. Yeah. He has got a lot of skills.
Yes, not just the shooting.
Yeah, that affects the stats. So maybe that's his point. Is like he's got a 7-footer coming at him. He's got crowd sharing. And he's still. His numbers are still good. I don't know. Yeah, I don't get that. I'm trying to comprehend that. But he's getting paid because he's above average. My point is, if you were above average at craps, you would get paid.
Mm-hmm. Here's 2 going. I'm going to go these 2 comments back to back. But Darren Michael said, all you need to do is push the 7 out a little bit.
Yep.
One more number before the 7 could be the difference between hitting a point followed by a come out 7 versus a 7 out. I don't know.
Those guys said 8%. So I don't know how far is it? Just 1 roll or 2 rolls you have to push it out? But yeah, theoretically.
Yeah, but the thing is, to me, it's repeating the number because the point doesn't end until you repeat the point number. So if you push it out 10 times, but you don't roll the point.
Well, no, you can bet on the other number. My point is, if you could roll it 10 times, you bet heavy for 9.
Okay.
Because you'll always win if that's your average.
So you're in the field and you're bumping up.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just saying maybe you just make yeah.
To me, it's.
You certainly do have to repeat numbers, and that's why there's different sects that say, hey, it's all about rolling inside numbers and that sort of thing. But yeah, you gotta roll long enough and be confident enough that you bet really big. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be above average.
Okay.
Because if you're just rolling average, it's useless.
You're just like everybody else.
Just like everyone else.
So here's one. Proof is in the pudding. The shooter should call and bet his shot to verify his ability. I mean,
yeah. I don't know that there's anyone being like, here comes a 6, here comes a 4.
Here comes a 3.
I think that's why they got away from the term dice control and moved it to dice influence, because they were, that argument wasn't sticking. People like control. And then people had to like, whoa. Let's ease up a little bit. We're not controlling. It's number 6 on the list. We're just influencing it a little bit, hopefully. I haven't read all this. It might get negative because he starts out, it might be like a good sandwich. He might end bad, but first time I've ever caught a live. Jeremy, love your videos. Appreciate them always. This is when I always feel like something negative is coming, but there's no but. I was always interested in crafts, but wasn't able to belly up to the table until I saw you. Oh, very cool. Very nice comment.
Encourager. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, it's I try to get rid of the stigma, the intimidation of the game. It's a fun game.
It is.
Everyone should try it at least once.
Oh, this is one thing we didn't get into. There must be pro controllers and non-pro controllers because he doesn't have the data, but he says he usually wins more often than not, and he'll show you everything I do. So, Valley.
My email is dice@colorup.club. Show me your winnings, your win-loss reports. Your tax return. I mean, whatever you want. You the big term in there was usually. You usually win more than you lose. I mean, that's pretty. And you don't track it. There's a couple issues in your statement there. You don't track it, and you usually win.
Yeah, here's my favorite Whalen's way.
He was busy tonight, huh?
Yeah. He said, I'm going to set my dice regardless. I've always have for 35 years. If it's all random, what's it hurt anyways? I don't care.
Doesn't hurt, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. It's all good.
Yeah, hopefully anyone who hopped in late, we're not bashing on it. We're not bashing on it. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, and Whalen's got to know how to bet. And that's one of the things with Whalen and his channel is he's all about betting plans, betting strategies, betting, all of that. So, yeah, and that is true. That is true. And his next comment was the same thing. He said, if you don't know how to bet, you can't win. That's why a lot of your videos, 90% of your videos are based on what? Strategies.
Yeah. Strategies, money, which is another term. It's not, strategy is a weird word for it. It's all essentially money management. Mm-hmm. How much percent? What are you risking on certain numbers? When to risk? When to take advantage? It's essentially money management. How are you managing the money you're betting?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm scrolling down.
Daryl says he prefers playing with a DI than a shake and bake roller any day of the week.
Okay.
That's cool. They're trying, right? Although random rollers like me, we're not trying to roll a 7 either. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But.
And then, I don't know if this is the same Daryl Q, but hop off of that one. I'm going to pull this one up. It might be. He says, the only pros making money are the ones selling the courses and books.
Yeah, like me, right? I make money off of selling stuff.
Yeah, but you're not selling books on DI.
No. If I sell a book, it's, hey guys, this is a game for entertainment. You're never going to beat the house long term. You can have an amazing week, an amazing year. Go gamble. It's fun, entertainment. That's what I'm all about. So, yeah, I'm not going to teach you how to take advantage of the casino because I certainly haven't seen the evidence that you can yet, but would love to. Would love to.
Let's see who else is on here. This is the comment.
You got 2 minutes, Jim. I know it's late there in the East. I'll give you 2 more minutes, and then we'll shut this down.
He says he shares my journey every day and charges nothing, which is nice. So good for him on that one. Let's see, anything else? Huh. This is interesting. I hadn't even thought about this one. James said, Jeremy, it seems to me to be a true professional player, you would have to be already rich just to sustain a continuous bankroll for the times when you're in a slump. Yeah, you've got to have bankrolls on everybody's list, right?
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to start off. I mean, there are like poker players have start from nothing and you have to build up a bankroll. So yeah, it might take a couple years. But if you have an edge, and you only have $500 a weekend, you win your $100 at a time, and then until you get 5,000, until you get 50,000, and you're, like I said, until you can get to betting 100,000 every roll to really make a difference. But yeah, you could start from zero if you had an advantage.
It would have to be a pretty big advantage, I would think, because you're just looking for one more, pushing the 7 back one more time.
Yeah, if you're talking about barely a house edge, you got to bet big from the beginning, or else what are you talking about winning? $100?
Yeah,
one extra bet. Like
you're right.
That's not changing. That's not moving the needle. That's not making you a professional.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. You got to have that 100K in the bank.
that's yeah. But I mean, if you could do it and have an edge, you can get there. You could build up to it.
Yeah. Start off low.
Yeah.
Or martingale your way up too.
Yeah, martingale is a great strategy for a dice controller because eventually he's good, right? Exactly. Eventually he's going to hit his above average, I guess.
Or the table max, one of the two. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, this Wong gave up control as a form of advantage play. What would you say about that? He's one of the ones Stanford Wong talked about a lot. He's wrote a book on it. Mm-hmm. He went to some classes, kind of changed his mind about it, practiced a lot, thought he had some control, and his sense of kind of wavered and said it's just not something he sees as an advantage anymore. So he's a well-known author that is kind of was skeptical, became a believer, and falls in the skeptical camp again. So
he's now. You saying Wong is now a heretic? The community turned his back on him. He's been excommunicated, or he.
Stanford Wong is a like a pen name, I believe. I don't think that's his real name.
Yeah, it says like Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
All right, it's 2 hours, Jim.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. We didn't get beaten up as bad as I thought we would.
Mm-hmm. No, but I think we had some people coming out at us a little bit. So
okay.
But my apologies if there are any children or if any moms or dads were.
Yeah, you said the thing about the Easter Bunny.
Easter Bunny, I messed that up, so that's bad. Yeah, we'll see. But 2 hours is a good time. And but yeah, it's a good topic. So we're going to take a break next week. Is that the plan? You going to let everybody know?
No, probably everyone's checked out, but I think we're going to take a break and try to run this. I thought 12 was a fun number. Not a long break, just like a 1 week break, and run this like in seasons. So 12 episodes is a season. I think this is just how my mind's working. So we're just going to take a little break, and then we'll be back. So that's I think that's the plan.
And somebody said, so Jim, are you convinced that DI is fiction? I would say, if you haven't heard it by now.
Oh no, Craftsmaster said he liked the vertical feed better. He's a phone guy apparently.
Really?
Yeah, they said YouTube would push it as a live vertical, and I did it for 2 weeks. Statistically, I saw, I'm a stat guy. I believe in the stats. You got to prove it to me. And the numbers were not any better at all running it vertical for live YouTube. So they didn't give me any booster push. So I kind of like it this way. So we'll probably do it this way.
Hey, one other thing before you leave, I heard there was one comment in there said the volume with you sounded much better this week. Did you see that comment?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. Whatever you
maybe I have it routed properly. I don't. If I turn you all the way down, Jim, can they hear you?
I don't know. You tell me. Can y'all hear me?
I can't hear Jim right now.
Can y'all
Let me know if you guys hear him and he's bypassing my system and coming out right now. Jim,
there?
Tell us about next week. What do you got coming up next week?
So next week I'm back to work 4 days a week, back as a school teacher, and hopefully everybody didn't leave and somebody
Type 1 if you can hear him. Type 2 if you cannot hear him.
Yes, you can hear him. Shep says yes. My buddy Shep from DiceCon says yes. They can hear me. So your little machine has nothing to do with
I can hear him. Dang it.
Okay. What do you mean, dang it? That's a good thing, people.
No, it just means that I have no control over. It means you're just bypassing my.
Yes. Okay. Justice Jim says
we got the equipment, supposedly professional stuff. I should be able to control.
And back
the feed.
Back up on your comments because Craftsmaster Journey changed his opinion on it.
Oh yeah, he meant horizontal.
He meant horizontal. That's crazy. That's crazy. But anyway, let's see. DC is just a couple hours. Endless fascination. Thanks for it all. Yeah, DIDC. Yeah, you can talk to your blue in the face, and some people you'll never convince. And
Someone said it earlier. It's religion, right?
yeah, it is.
Never convince them otherwise or not.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Totally
Which is perfectly. We're cool. We're cool. Don't take away any hate from us. We love you.
We love it.
We want the long rolls just as much as the next guy. All right. All right. Let's quit dragging this on.
It up. Yep.
Thank you guys for watching, and good night. We'll see you in probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks.